Hello and welcome to this Beyond Exploring session of the second half to Like Will to Like, quoth the devil to the Collier, a turn of phrase that I'm sure you're going to hear many, many times in this second half of the play. It's very much a call and response greeting. We decided yesterday it's a call and response greeting that is deliberately repeated throughout the text to engage the audience, and hopefully we're going to engage you at home to say such things back as a random screen somewhere in the middle of nowhere. So I am your host, Robert Crighton, and I have a team of readers who are going to read the second half of this interlude, printed sometime in the 1560s. I think it's printed 1568 and dated to somewhere before then. We had a little discussion of when it was produced the other day, and I'm sure that will continue today. But we do have a fabulous team of readers for you, who I'm now going to introduce in no particular order whatsoever. So reading the part of Newfangle is...
Hi, I'm Steve Longstaffe. I'm a scholar of early modern drama. I'm based in Lancaster in the UK.
And reading the parts of Honor, Rafe or Ralph, and Lucifer are...
It's Sascha Cooper from Brighton in the UK, and I'm a professional actress, dancer, choreographer, director, writer, and general all-round voice artist and performer, just down here and ready to get my devil out.
And reading the part of Cutpurse is...
Alexandra. I too act professionally, and I missed the first half of this play, so I haven't got a clue.
Don't worry, I don't think it's very plot heavy, or it isn't so far. And reading the part of Pickpurse is...
Liza Graham, actor, singer, and Shakespearean.
Oh, we've lost your volume. We've lost your volume, Liza.
Buggeration. Okay, how is this?
Much better. Much better.
Okay, Liza Graham, actor, singer, and Shakespearean text coach in London.
And reading the parts of Virtuous Living and Severity is... Well, Virtuous Life, rather, I apologise. And Severity is...
Hello, my name's Heydn McCabe, and I live in Bury St Edmunds in Suffolk, England.
And reading the beautifully doubled part of Good Fame and Tosspot is...
Lynsey Beauchamp. I'm a professional actor, currently self-isolating in Norfolk.
And finally, reading God's Promise and the Hangman, Hankin Hangman, no less, is...
Hi, I'm Ruth Evans. I teach English literature, mainly medieval English literature. Here I am, straying into the early modern, and I'm based in St. Louis, Missouri, in the Midwest of the US.
So, the stories so far, some that Lucifer popped in, as you do, and said, you know, the people who are alike should stick together. And he has an apprentice, Newfangle, who's been given a bit of a prompting to go out and try and bring some evildoers together. And so the first half has mostly been a collection of evil, or at least wrong-uns, if not necessarily evildoers, but wrong-uns getting together. The wrong-uns and the drunkards and the wastrels have all exited, and Newfangle is left all alone to have a little chat with the audience. So Newfangle remaineth behind, but he must not speak till everybody else has exited. So, Newfangle.
I'm not going to sing it. Now 3 knaves are gone, and I am left alone, myself here to solace. Sell on, gentle Joan, where begin you to moan? Though they be gone, I am on place. For now will I dance, and now will I prance, for why I have none other work. Snip, snap, butter is no bone meat, knave's flesh is no pork. A tisty, tosty, an owl is a bird, jackanapes hath an old face. You may believe me at one bare word, how like you this merry case? A piece of ground they think they have found, I will tell you what it is. For I them told of Beggars Manor it did hold, a staff and a wallet he wis, which in short space, even in this place, of me they shall receive. For when that their drift hath spent all their thrift, their minds I shall deceive. I trow you shall see more knaves come to me, which whensoever they do, they shall have their meed, as they deserve indeed, as you shall see shortly these two. When they do pretend to have a good end, mark well then what shall ensue, a bag and a bottle, or else a rope knottle, this shall they prove too true. But mark well this game, I see this gear frame, lo, who cometh now in such haste? It is Cuthbert Cutpurse and Pierce Pickpurse. Give room now, a little cast.
And indeed, here entereth Cuthbert Cutpurse and Pierce Pickpurse. Cuthbert Cutpurse must have in his hand a purse of money, or counters in it, and a knife in one hand, and a whetstone in the other. And Pierce must have money or counters in his hand, and jingle it as he cometh in.
By Gog's wounds, it doth me good to the heart to see how cleanly I played this part. While they stood thrusting together in the throng, I began to go them among, and with this knife, which here do you see, I cut away this purse cleanly.
See to your purses, my masters, and be ruled by me, for knaves are abroad, therefore beware. You're warned, you take not heed, I don't care.
And also, so soon as I had espied a woman in the throng whose purse was fat, I took it by the strings and cleanly it untied. She knew no more of it than Gib our cat. Yet at the last she hied apace, and said that the money in my hand she saw. Thou whore, I said, I will have an action of the case, and seeing thou sayest so, I will try the law.
How sayest thou, Pierce Pickpurse? Art thou not agreed these two booties equally to divide? Then let us count the total sum, and divide it equally when we have done.
My masters, here is a good fellow that would fain have some.
What? Nickel Newfangle, be you here? So God help me, I am glad with all my heart.
Then ere we depart, we will have some cheer, and of this booty you shall have your part.
I thank you both, even heartily, and I will do somewhat for you by and by. Are you not two sworn brothers in every booty?
Yes,
that we are truly.
That we are truly.
Then I can tell you news which you do not know, such news as will make you full glad, I trow. First tell me this, Pierce Pickpurse, whether is the elder, thou or Cuthbert Cutpurse?
I' faith, I think we are both of one age, well nigh.
I suppose there is no great difference, truly. But wherefore ask you? I pray you tell me why.
I will tell you the cause without any delay, for a piece of land is fallen, as I hear say, which by succession must come to one of you. Proper plot it is, this is most true. For thou, Cuthbert Cutpurse, was Cuthbert Cutthroat's son, and thou, Pierce Pickpurse, by that time thou hast done, thou canst derive thy pedigree from an ancient house. Thy father was Tom Thief, thy mother was Tiblouse. This piece of land whereto you inheritors are is called the land of the Two-Legged Mare, in which piece of ground there is a mare, indeed, which is the quickest mare in England for speed. Therefore, if you will come anon unto me, I will put you in possession, and that you shall see.
I cannot believe that such luck has happened to us.
It is true that I to you do discuss.
If you will help us to this piece of ground, both of us to you shall think ourselves bound.
Yes, i' faith, you shall have it. You may believe me, I will be as good as my word, as shortly you shall see.
Then, Brother Pierce, we may think ourselves happy that ever we were with him acquainted.
Even so we may, of a certainty that such good luck unto us hath happened. But, Brother Cuthbert, is it not best to go in for a while and distribute this booty, whereas we three will make some feast and quaff together and be merry?
What say you, Nickel?
I do agree.
But we'll pause there because there's about to be the entrance of someone who might be able to ruin this game. Lots of interesting things here. I love the educational nature of this text, explaining to the audience at home, both ancient and modern, the precise technical difference between a cutpurse and a pickpurse. And I do like that. I think that's a really useful demonstration there of the different ways of stealing people's money. I think that's fabulous. Newfangle's doing the same game as before of trying to essentially pass on the piece of ground of the two-legged mare, i.e. the gallows.
Spoiler. Spoiler.
Spoilers.
What do you mean spoilers? I think he's already explained this earlier. This isn't a spoiler, surely. This is a callback.
For the audience, but for us.
Yeah, but you did. It was in part one. It was in the first half, wasn't it?
Some of us weren't in part one.
I don't think it was, you know.
I'm sure we
I don't think
discussed
it
this
was
in part one, didn't we?
Well,
I never see any reference to it.
we didn't have the two-legged mare. We had the it was talked about being Tyburn's
Yeah.
land or something like that. So it was a different reference.
But to the same thing. I mean, we are talking about the same bit of land.
Yes.
It's the same game as earlier, just to two different marks.
I thought as much.
So you'd need a bit of business then, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Ideally.
Well, it gets explained. Spoilers. It gets explained later on.
Well, so I thought it was sort of explained earlier, so that I didn't see it as a spoiler. They're doing exactly the same business as earlier. So, they're talking about the land. This was explicitly stated earlier, wasn't it?
Yeah, but not the mayor. I don't think that was.
No, but this is just a different turn of phrase. I don't know whether that's an expression that exists elsewhere. That would be known that that's what it meant.
That's what I was going to ask, because there is something about three-legged something that's connected to Tyburn that I've heard before, but I haven't heard three-legged mare.
The Tyburn gallows, or indeed triangular scaffolds in the same model as Tyburn, were generally known as the three-legged mare.
Yeah.
This must be the earlier model.
Wouldn't surprise me.
Okay. So do we think the audience is supposed to not know what's being said here? Because it seems that there's a deliberate irony being played with of let's get there as quickly as possible going on.
I'm sure they would understand the reference.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I agree there as well.
So the audience would get it, but potentially the joke is that Cutpurse and Pickpurse, for some reason, don't. But it's a common reference. Is that the idea?
I think that is supposed to be an irony. Newfangled's got a lovely. I mean, is it explicitly a song, or is it what that big speech? What is it? There's some lovely bits in it. I really liked that.
Yeah, doesn't it say here he sings or something like that? He sings is in my script after the laughing.
Yes.
I don't actually have any sing notation in mind, so that's an interesting question.
But we don't know. For some other characters, it said, he sings the first two lines and then he speaks. So we don't have that notation here. So we don't know whether he sings some of it and speaks some of it, or, I mean, if I were directing this, I might well give musical accompaniment to all of it, but just have him sing some and speak some.
Right, the lines are slightly shorter, aren't they, than the lines elsewhere, which suggests some kind of genre break. But yes.
The rhythm of the text there very much suggested a song. Even as it was being read, it just suggested a song to me.
Yeah,
it's definitely got a rhythm to it, hasn't it? That's being played, and even if it's just at the end of the line, you've got a bit of a element to it. It feels like there's something going on, and that seems to work. And it's a break in the action, so it feels like it needs something going on. He does mention sort of doing a bit of a dance as well, doesn't he? And now I will dance. So he's quite busy.
And then they bring in the coins as castanets, you know,
Yeah.
the whole come in with jingling. Yeah, so it's a whole orchestra, really. Yes.
Yes, that sort of thing. Any other thoughts in that little sequencette before we move forward with the entrance of a different character? Nope. Fabulous. Okay, so we have the entrance of Virtuous Living. So let's see what happens with that.
But soft a while, be ruled by me. Look yonder a little. Do you not see who cometh yonder? A while we will abide. Let him say his pleasure, and we will stand aside.
O gracious God, how wonderful are thy works! How highly art thou of all men to be praised! Of Christians, Saracens, Jews, and also Turks, thy glory ought to be erected and raised. What joys hast thou prepared for the virtuous life, and such as have thy name in love and in awe! Thou hast promised salvation to man, child, and wife, that thy precepts observe and keep well thy law. And to the virtuous life what doth ensue? Virtutis premium honour, Tully doth say. Honour is thy guerdon for virtue due, and eternal salvation at the latter day. How clear in conscience is the virtuous life! The vicious have consciences so heavy as lead. Their conscience and their doing is always at strife, and all together they live, yet to sin they are dead.
God give you good morrow, sir. How do you do today?
God bless you also both now and alway. I pray you, with me have you any acquaintance?
Yea, marry, I'm an old friend of yours, perchance.
If it be so, I marvel very much that the dullness of my wit should be such that you should be altogether out of my memory. Tell me your name, I pray you heartily.
By the faith of my body, you will oppose me by and by, but in faith, I was but little when I was first born, and my mother to tell me my name thought it scorn.
I will never acquaint with me such in any place as are ashamed of their names, by God's grace.
I remember my name now. It is come to my mind. I have mused much before I could it find. Newfangle it is. I am your old friend.
My friend? Marry, I do thee defy, and all such company I do deny. For thou art a companion for roysters and ruffians, and not fit for any virtuous companions.
Ye faith, art thou at plain defiance? Then I see I must go to mine old acquaintance. Well, Cuthbert Cutpurse, Pierce Pickpurse, we must go together. For like will to like, quoth the devil to the Collier.
Indeed, thou sayest true, it must needs be so, for like will ever to his like go, and my conditions and thine are so far do disagree that no familiarity between us may be. For thou nourishest vice both night and day. My name is Virtuous Life, and in virtue is my delight. So vice and virtue cannot together be united, but the one the other hath always spited. For as the water quencheth fire, and the flame doth suppress, so virtue hateth vice, and seeketh a redress.
Tush, if he be so dangerous, let us not him esteem. He is not for our company, I see very well. For if he be so holy as he doth seem, we and he differ as much as heaven and hell.
You know that like will to like alway, and you see how holily he is now bent to seek his company. Why do we essay?
I promise you, do you what you will, I do not consent. For I pass not for him, be he better or be he worse.
Friend, if you be wise, beware your purse, for this fellow may do you good when all comes to all. If you chance to lose your purse in Cutpurse Hall, Good faith, fare ye well. Sith of our company ye be weary, we will go to a place where we will be merry. For I see your company and ours do far differ. For like will to like, quoth the devil to the collier.
Well, let us be gone and bid him adieu, for I see this proverb proveth very true.
Then let us go to Hob Filcher's house, where we will be merry and quaff carouse. And there we shall find Tom Tosspot with other mo. Meat makes for us, therefore let us go. Then, seeing we are all of one mind, let us three go and leave a knave here behind.
And they exit all three, but as they exit, they're going to sing a song. I'm going to ask one person to sing the song or say the song. Who would like to do it? Because it doesn't work getting people doing it in unison on Zoom. Sascha would like to go for it.
Let's do this. Good hostess, lay a crab in the fire, and broth a mouse of sorrow, that we may toss the bowl to and fro, and breaks them all a carosa. And I will pledge Tom Tosspot till I be drunk as a mouse. Whoso will drink to me all day, I will pledge them all a carouser. Then we will not spare for any cost, so long as we be in house. Then hostess, fill the pot again, for I pledge them all a carosa.
And once again in the song, we have an "ah" at the end to make sure that everything goes with a bang. One of these things is not like the other, and that seems to be the whole purpose of that scene. Is just going, are we like Virtuous Living? No, we're not. No, we're not. No, we're not going to be friends, are we? We're not going to be friends. And the audience is invited to do out the catchphrase again, and that's lovely. Why is Newfangle doing that whole pretending not to say his name at the beginning? It's a weird bit of business, and I'm not quite sure I understand the logic of it.
Well, in a lot of these plays, things that are newfangled are, apart from new custom, things that are newfangled are automatically terrible and awful, because these plays are written by older people. And since your name is your nature in this play, I assume that Virtuous Living would hear his name and simply judge him for it, as indeed he does.
Mm.
Mm.
Yeah, but sorry, go on.
I also want to... Go ahead.
Sorry, Stephen first.
When he says, by the faith of my body, you will oppose me by and by, that's probably an aside then, isn't it? And the next two lines, in faith I was but little when I was first, that's his attempt as an excuse to get out of it. My mother didn't tell me my name when I was little. But the first line is kind of setting that up, going, if you know my name, you will oppose me. And then he tells him it like 2 lines later anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a quick turnaround. Alexandra.
I just wanted to advance the theory that since Newfangle says, I'm your old friend, or that's kind of the idea that he's trying to persuade Virtuous Living of, but his name is Newfangle and your name is New Nature, as Liza was saying. So to go, I am your old friend, what's your name? Newfangle. Like it's the fact that you can't be my old friend because you are new by definition.
Mm.
So to reveal his name would reveal the lie, and so he's trying to find a way around that.
Mm.
Is there also a Rumpelstiltskin reference? You know, that if you don't tell somebody your name, then you keep your power. Although he does then go away and tell his name. So
yeah,
I agree with that actually.
Yeah, they're definitely, you know, he doesn't want to tell his name, but he obviously, he's not going to get away. It's clear very quickly he's not going to get away with not saying it. So it turns around very quickly, doesn't it?
He drew it out.
Mm.
Nickel Newfangle.
Yeah.
You know, something like that.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, it's that thing. We've finally met someone who's different, who's not like Will to like at all. And does Newfangle warn him seriously about, you know, be careful of your money around some of these people, or is he throwing something nice because it's that thing of they want to. The way that association at the end works is a little interesting as well.
I think it could go either way, actually. Although, if you look at the way he phrases it, to me anyway, it comes across as almost a little jibe in a way. I think he's still kind of playing with everybody who's around him at that moment in time. Although it could be something underlining that he's kind of like, I don't know. It could be something double happening there, but I think a lot of it is very much, it's a jibe.
In on the face of it, he seems to be warning Virtuous Living that he's among Cutpurses and he should be careful. In terms of stage business, even though there's no direction, the directions in this play are really specific, and I like that. I'd be tempted to have Newfangle talk very earnestly to Virtuous Living, and one of the Cutpurses try and take his purse while he's doing that.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, it's that question of looking for the game. What's the additional game that's happening underneath the action here? And that makes a lot of sense. That he's treating him as a mark that he can they as a team can work on.
Also, in support of that, what he says is, if you lose your purse in Cutpurse Hall, and Cutpurse is the only one of them that hasn't had a line in this interaction. Like, there's a point where Pickpurse starts speaking, but Cutpurse still isn't saying anything.
There is an interesting thing. There are a couple of these exchanges where some people's lines in the text you've got have been elided together, where it should actually be an exchange. And I haven't paused at those moments because it sort of works. So it's interesting to see how it plays out, but I'm making notes here. So, for example, the closing two lines before you sing are down as Newfangle rather than Pickpurse. And and there was another one earlier as well where Cutpurse and Pickpurse had an elided couple of lines together. I was sort of listening out, letting you do it to see how it worked, and I think the version I've got here makes more sense. So I think that's probably more likely. So they have exited, and Virtuous Living is left all alone. Virtuous life. Go forth, sir.
Oh, wicked imps that have such delight in evil conversation, wicked and abominable. And from virtue's law withdraw yourselves quite, and lean to vice most vile and detestable. How prone and ready we are vice to ensue, how deaf we be good counsel to hear, how strange we make it our hearts to renew, how little we have got threats in fear.
And then there's this very odd stage direction. I don't know where it's placed in yours, but it then says,
Right
when
there,
this is spoken,
well,
he must pause and then say as followeth.
Yep, I've got that here as well.
Yeah, that's what I've got. Yeah.
And so is it like he does a little... and moves on. It's a very interesting thing there, because he's now going to make a speech. It's very much he's making a speech now, isn't he?
Yes.
I think the pause gives those first questions time to land, because that first passage is so immediate. He can ask that of the audience, and then he starts the sermon, the sententia.
Okay, let's have the sermon.
Saint Augustine saith in his 5th book, De Civitate Dei, Conjuntes Sontates Virtutis et Honoratis, saith he, the houses of virtue and honour joined together be, and so the way to honour's house is disposed, that through virtue's house he must needs pass, or else from honour he shall soon be deposed, and brought to that point that he was before. But if through virtue honour be attained, the path to salvation may soon be gained. So there be that do fortune prefer some esteem pleasure more than virtuous life, but in my opinion all such do err, for virtue and fortune be not at strife. Where virtue is, fortune must needs grow, but fortune without virtue has soon the overthrow. Thrice happy are they that do virtue embrace, for a crown of glory shall be their reward. Satan at no time may him anything deface, for God over him will have such regard, that his foes he shall soon tread underfoot, and by God's permission pluck them up by the root. It booteth not vice against virtue to stir, for why vice is feeble and of no force, but virtus eterna, preculaque habitur. Wherefore I would all men would have remorse and eschew evil company, vile and pernicious, delight in virtuous men and hate the vicious. And as the end of virtue is honour and felicity, so mark well the end of wickedness and vice. Shame in this world and pain eternally, wherefore you that are here learn to be wise, and the end of the one with the other way, by that time you have heard the end of this play. But why do I thus much say in the praise of virtue? Sith the thing praiseworthy needs no praise at all. It praiseth itself sufficiently, this is true, which chaseth away sin as bitter as gall. And where virtue is, it need not be praised, for the renown thereof shall soon be vain.
And here enters good fame.
O virtuous life, God rest you merry, to you am I come for to attend.
Good fame, you are welcome heartily. I pray you, where did you hither send?
Even God's promise hath sent me unto you, willing me from you not to depart, but always to give attendance due, and in no wise from you to start. For God of his promise hath most liberally sent me, good fame, to you, virtuous life, whereby it may be seen manifestly God's great zeal to virtue both in man and wife. For why they may be sure that I, good fame, from the virtuous life will never stray, whereby honour and renown may grow to their name, and eternal salvation at the latter day.
God is gracious and full of great mercy to such as in virtue set their whole delight, pouring his benefits on them abundantly. O man, what meanest thou with thy Saviour to fight? Come unto him, for he is full of mercy, the fountain of virtue and of godliness the spring. Come unto him, and thou shalt live everlastingly. He doth not require thee any price to bring. Venite ad me omnes, qui laboratis et honorati estis, et ego re fossillabo vos. Come unto me, ye that travail, saith he, and such as with sin are heavenly lodden, and of me myself refreshed you shall be. Repent, repent, your sins shall be downtrodden. Well, good fame, sith God of his goodness hath hither sent you on me to attend, let us give thank to him with humbleness, and persuade with all men their lives to amend.
Virtuous life, I do thereto agree, for it becometh all men for to do so. But behold, yonder cometh God's promise, as seemeth me, and honour with him cometh also.
Yes, and enter God's promise and honour with him.
Such godly company pleaseth me very well, for vicious men from our company we should expel.
God rest you merry both, and God be your guide.
We are now to come to the place where we must abide, for from you, virtuous life, I honour may not slide.
I am God's promise, which is a thing etern, and nothing more surer than his promise may be, a sure foundation to such as will learn God's precepts to observe. Then must they needs see honor in this world, and at last a crown of glory, ever in joy and mirth, and never to be sorry. Wherefore, O virtuous life, to you we do repair, as messengers from God, his promise to fulfill. And therefore sit you down now in this chair, for to endue you with honor is God's promise and will.
Virtuous
Now.
living sitteth down in the chair.
Now, take this sword in hand as a token of victory. This crown for my head to you I shall give. I crown you with it as one most worthy, and see that all vice ye do punish and grieve. For in this world I, honour with you, shall remain, and good fame from you cannot refrain, and after this life a greater crown you shall attain.
What heart can think, or what tongue can express the great goodness of God, which is almighty, who seeth this and seeks not vice to suppress, honour, good fame, yea, and life everlastingly. Thy name be praised, O Lord, therefore, and to thee only be glory and honour. Sith God's promise hath brought honour into place, I will for a while leave you three alone, for I must depart now for a little space, but I shall come to you again anon.
I'm just going to pause there because I'm going to ask you to rewind slightly. And good fame. Who's good fame? Just hand up. Lovely. Could you go back to 4 lines previously and read the 4 lines, Sith God's promise, please? Rather than God's promise, continuing that.
Oh, wait a minute.
I did read that.
Did you read that?
Yes.
Sorry, was I looking down and didn't look up? So
Yeah, you did.
Okay, that's fine. Then that's just me not looking up. It sounded like the same voice, you see.
No, it wasn't me.
It wasn't you. It wasn't you. Okay, there was a swap over between the 2 characters. That's fine at that point.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Okay, in that case, good fame exits. Then you can ignore me. I'll probably try and edit this out later.
God's promise is infallible, his word is most true, and to ground thereon a man may be bold, as Scripture doth testify and declare unto you, on which foundation your building you may behold. For virtuous rulers the fruit of felicity do reap, and reward of fame and honour to themselves they heap.
Seeing we have now endued him with the crown and the sword, which is due unto him by God's promise and word, let us 3 sing unto God with one accord.
To sing praises unto God, it liketh well me.
And I also with you do thereto agree. A pleasant noise to God's ears it must needs bring, that God's promise, honour, and virtuous life do sing.
And they're going to sing the song following. I suggest that you take it a verse and a chorus at a time, if you could. So let's start with God's promise. Read the first chunkette, please.
Read or sing? Sing.
I'm not going to make you sing. If you want to sing, then sing your heart out.
Life is but short, hope not therein. Virtue immortal, seek for to win. Whoso to virtue doth apply, good fame and honour must obtain, and also live eternally. For virtuous life, this is the gain.
And honour.
Life is but short, hope not therein. Virtue immortal, seek for to win. God's promise sure will never fail. His holy word is a perfect ground. The fort of virtue, O man, assail, where treasure always doth abound.
And virtuous life.
Life is but short, hope not therein. Virtue immortal, seek for to win. To thee alone be Lord and praise, O Lord, that art so merciful, who never failed at all essays to aid and help the pitiful.
All together now.
His but short,
Hope
hope
not
therein, virtue
virtue
immortal,
seek
for
to
to
win.
win.
And they exit. Well done, everyone.
Not
My
feel that
God,
last bit,
man,
yeah.
what are you doing to us?
I don't know. It's just my own personal amusement. Okay. I thought I'd let that.
In some people's eyes.
I thought it was important to just let that run through, get a sense of it. So we start off with the big speech, and then we get the entrance of the other good people, shall we say, and Virtuous Living being given a well, I mean, I don't know. It's just a chair. It's not even a throne, really, is it? It just, there happens to be a chair. We had it on stage earlier. You get the chair and a sword and a crown, and it's all lovely. Thoughts about that little sequence, please?
I'm not really sure whether we're meant to take these virtuous characters straight. I just don't know to what extent they're being parodied, or I really don't know. You could take it both ways.
I've been playing it as a parody. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yes, it's been great, and I can see how that works.
Yeah. It just doesn't. It doesn't seem to me that there is any serious intent for this character towards the audience.
I think there's a serious undertone to it, but you're quite right. Yeah. But you're quite right. There is a sense of parody with the whole thing, especially with what we've seen before. Although I think if you wanted to make it even more funny, I don't know why I've just literally had this pop in my head, but if anybody remembers the 1960s series of Batman, when Adam West actually played his character as if it was completely straight, which created the comedy, I could actually see these virtues play it for straight with literally the Virtuous Living as the Adam West straight play character. I don't know. What do you think, guys?
I can see the reference to Batman. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It's interesting because we did Mankind at the top of the week, and Mercy in that is both a very serious figure, but is also someone who's a little bit pompous.
Yeah.
And the pomposity there, and it therefore can be a figure of fun when mischief comes in and sort of starts goading. And there's an element there with Newfangle when there's that little back and forth, and then you get this long speech, which is again like the speech that Mercy always tries to get through, but never quite does until the very end of the play. I think is always interrupted, but doesn't get interrupted here. So I think it is a case the character can be a little pompous, and there can be that playfulness to it, but. Then again, I don't know how far we can take that with the overall general moral tone of what's been introduced. We've got a bit of a game of two halves here, haven't we?
Yeah.
How would for those of you that study this actual period, how would the audience have seen that character of Virtue? Would they have expected him to play it completely straight and pompostic?
That's one of those really dangerous questions to be asking.
Well, no, I'm just wondering
it's a
how
good
it
question.
Come over.
Maybe it's
Stephen.
Maybe it's a matter of physical styles, because we've got that like will to like thing going on.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about one way you could play Cutpurse and Pickpurse is that they're kind of ducking and diving and maybe trying to pick people's pockets, and there's a lot of sort of kind of business and activity. And in contrast to that, you would have a sort of physical presence, which is about unity and harmony, and a certain kind of sort of physical, a different kind of physical language, really, a different kind of physical vocabulary. So less thinking about how they might say things, and more what they might look like, which then might lead you. Do you see what I mean? There's such a lot of activity, or we find it really easy to imagine activity with the kind of daft characters.
Yeah.
And I sort of thought, well, what am I imagining with these characters? And the answer was, I'm imagining nothing because I'm just looking at the words.
Yeah. Okay.
There's something statuesque about them. That there's a tableau element. They're creating an image, aren't they?
Well, there's two different kinds of dancing, isn't there? I mean, there's country dancing, which is kind of, sort of bopping around and hopping, but there's also courtly dancing, which is, very orderly and very shapely and very harmonious. So it doesn't need to be static.
No.
Yeah.
And again, that sends up the comedy element. If you play these virtues as straight, it then sends off the craziness, or sends up the craziness of the other characters that we've seen beforehand.
It's also the question of what the song is. The song at the end, I mean, the lyric, we don't know what the musical tone is, but the lyric is, life is but short, hope not therein. And that's the repeated phrase. So I wonder if the end of the scene, that's where we're heading for, is that it's a much heavier actual close there.
Yes, I mean, I agree. I'm not sure how audiences would have taken it, and I'm not sure how it would have been played originally, of course, but seemed to me that there's nothing in the language of these characters that suggests an actual parody or a piss take or a send-up. They are emblems of their names in the same way that all the characters in the play are emblems of their names. And I think for the balance and the contrast and the antithesis between, the like and different, I feel these characters and what Stephen says about their physical representation, I think is very apt. They are just very different to what we've seen before. And that's the balance of the play, I feel.
Yeah, great point, Lynsey. And how do we represent these things on stage? I think an audience of the time would be expecting, as you say, something different from what they've seen before. I think they are expecting something beautiful. I think they are expecting, as you said, harmoniousness, whether singing, dancing, movement. This is, for the tech person, this is where you pull out the good special effects, the, heavenly lights and I think, I mean, from my experience having played Mercy in Mankind earlier this week, I think when you play a virtue, when you play a vice, the fun makes itself. And when you have two evil characters on stage, that's also fun. When you have a vice and a virtue, there's comedy because the vice sends up the virtue, there's friction. When you have more than one good character on stage and no less good characters, that's harder. As a director, it's harder to keep it moving. So when playing a virtue, where I come from is the urgency that you have to save people, that every person in this audience could fall into sin simply because they don't know any better, and they could go to hell unless you, the virtue, save them. And to do that, you have to talk to them. I think for a character that has long speeches, as Mercy did and as Virtuous Living does, if you deliberately play it as self-satisfied or as parody, I don't know that that's got the legs to carry through quite such length. Just my opinion.
That's a great point, I think. I mean, it's easy for us to think, a vice coming on going, yippee, I've got an audience. We don't intuitively think that there's a virtuous character coming on going, yippee, I've got an audience. But it's exactly the same thing, in a sense. So that fits beautifully, I think. I think that works really well. And also it works as a kind of coherent approach to the play, which is that you're always out to the audience. It's just your virtuous characters are effectively preachers who've been let loose, and the vicious characters are doing something else. And
you want to win the argument. I mean, I think that's the thing. We've had this with debate plays that we've done before, but even more so with this. You've got to win because otherwise they're going to hell.
Hence playing it straight.
Yeah.
These characters, you have to play it straight. then in turn it sends up what has been literally chaos in the beginning. That's like I was saying earlier. It's just literally, if you can get these guys playing really, really straight, then it makes it more interesting.
Well, it's also the thing is that doesn't mean that necessarily that they're cardboard cutouts. You know, we
No.
were talking where I think where we've been talking about, you know, the potential for comedy in them is that there is a life to these people. They're not automatic winners. You know, they've still got to persuade us, and there is a bit more wiggle room here. What I've really liked about this little debate is that we've started from one point, we've danced through pretty much all the options here. I think that's been really quite productive. Any additional thoughts before we move on?
I've wanted to say, it seems to, it puts me in mind of theatre and education. We were talking earlier about, you know, how would people have responded to this? Probably in a huge variety of ways, just in the same way as, you know, you look at plays that are taken into schools, and some of them to us seem ridiculous because they are so clearly, you know, drawn along a line of morality, that with a more complex point of view, you go, this is absurd, this is ridiculous. And I think the audiences probably have a similar reaction. You know, they would either go, oh yes, I want to be on the side of virtue, or I get what this is trying to give me, or they'd go, no, these guys look like they're having so much more fun, and actually I can see through his, you know, whatever golden robe, and this is, you know, I'm going to throw my oranges at it, or my walnut shells. So yeah, I think one, playing straight, I would agree with that, and also I think the expectation that the audience would have taken it in a certain way is something that we are putting on it as with a modern mind. Where probably it would have been a lot more, I imagine it would have been a lot more of, you know, not just as characters getting on stage to convince people, but like, this is our mission. We actually, we are here, we're the actors, we're the people performing this. We really need to like make our points, because that's my job right now. And then as you know, the audience, you can be anywhere along that spectrum of acceptance to ridicule.
Yeah. I think the theatre and education point is a really good point, because there's a lot of these plays that feel like they are very much pointedly educational vehicles, as opposed to, say, a more soft power propagandist vehicle, which sometimes you could have. And we've got a few other examples that we've done in the past. I want to just park this a bit. Hold on to your thoughts, because we will come back to this, I'm sure. But I want to get a little deeper into the play, because just to make sure that we don't run out of time. So I'm going to read, there's a stage direction after the first line, I think, in this, but I'll read all the stage directions here so that Newfangle, as he enters, can just do all this in one go. So here entereth Nicol Newfangle, and bringeth in with him a bag, a staff, a bottle, and 2 halters, going about the place, showing it to the audience, and singing this. But he may sing this as oft as he thinketh good. So there's a chorus element to this. I think that it's how's the room going, I think, is up to you.
Trim merchandise, trim, trim, trim merchandise, trim, trim, trim merchandise, trim, trim. Mary, here is merchandise. Whoso list for to buy any, come, see for your love, and buy for your money. This is land, which I must distribute anon according to my promise, ere I be gone. For I, Tom Tosspot, since he went hence, hath increased a noble just unto 9 pence. And Rafe Royster, it may no otherwise be chosen, hath brought a pack of wool to a fair pair of hosen. This is good thrift, sirs. Learn it who shall. And now a couple of fellows are come from Cutpurse Hall, and there have they brought many a purse to rack. Lo, here is a gear that will make their necks for to crack. For I promise Tom Tosspot and Rafe Royster a piece of land. Lo, here it is ready in my right hand, a wallet and a bottle, but it is not to be sold. I told him before that of Beggars Manor he'd hold, and for Cutpurse and P.S. Pickpurse, here is good fare. This is the land of the Two-Legged Mare, which I to them promised, and to divide it with discretion. Shortly you shall see I will put them in possession. How like you this merchandise, my masters? Is it not trim? A wallet, a bottle, a staff, and a string? How sayst thou, what woghalter? Is this not a trim thing? If Rafe Royster is in good case, as I suppose, he hath lost all he hath, save his doublet and his hose, and Tom Tosspot is even at the same point, for he would lose a limb or jeopard a joint. But, behold, yonder they come both, now all is gone and spent. I know their errand, and what is their intent.
And here entereth Rafe Royster and Tom Tosspot in their doublet and their hose, and no cap nor hat on their head, naughty, naughty, saving a nightcap because the strings of the beards may not be seen. I love these stage directions. And Rafe Royster must curse and ban as he cometh in.
Well, be as he may, is no banning. But I fear that, when this gear shall come to scanning, the land to the which we did wholly trust shall be gone from us, and we cast in the dust.
Dog's blood, if Nickel Newfangle serve us so, we may say that we have had a shrewd blow, for all that I had is now lost at the dice. My sword, my buckler, and all at sink and sice. My coat, my cloak, and my hat also, and now in my doublet and my hose I am fain to go. Therefore, if Nickel Newfangle help not now at a pinch, I am undone, for of land I have not an inch.
By Gog's wounds, even so is it now with me. I am in my doublet and my hosen, as you can see. For all that I had doth lie at pledge for ale. By the mass, I am as bare as my nail. Not a cross of money to bless me have I, but I trow we shall meet Nickel Newfangle by and by.
Turn hither, I say, Sir Knave, for I am even he that you so fain would have.
What, Master Nickel, are you here all this while?
I think I'm here, or else I do thee beguile.
So God help me, I am glad that you be in sight, for in faith your presence hath made my heart light.
I will make it lighter anon, I trow. My masters, I have a piece of land for you. Do you know?
Marry, that is the cause of our hither resort, for now we are void of all joy and comfort.
You see in what case we now stand in, and you heard us also even now, I ween. Wherefore, good Master Nickel, let us have this land now, and we shall think ourselves much bound unto you.
Well, you know that I this land must divide, which I shall do. But a while abide. All thy goods for ale at pledge be, and thou sayest a pair of dice have made thee free. First, Rafe Royster, come thou unto me, because thou hast lot every wit at dice.
And he giveth the bag to Rafe Royster, and he's about to give the bottle to Tom Tosspot.
Take there this bag to carry bread and cheese, and take thou this bottle, and mark what I say. If he chance to eat the bread and cheese, by the way, do thou in this matter follow my counsel. Drink up the drink, and knock him about the head with the bottle. And because that Rafe is the elder knave, this staff also of me he shall have.
But where is the land that to us you promised?
I' faith, good fellows, my promise is performed.
By Gog's blood, I thought that it would be so.
This must you have, where you will or no, or else fall to work with shovel and with spade, for begging must now be your chiefest trade.
Gog's heart! Can I away with this life? To beg my bread from door to door? I would rather cut my throat with a knife than I will live thus beggarly and poor. By Gog's blood, rather than I will it assay, I will rob and steal and keep the highway.
Well, Rafe Royster, seeing we be in this misery and labour we cannot, and to beg, it is a shame, yet better it is to beg most shamefully than to be hanged and to thievery ourselves frame.
Now, my masters, learn to beware, like will to like, quoth the devil to the collier.
Oh, Lord, why did I not consider before? What should of roisting be the final end? Now the horse is stolen, I shut the stable door. Alas, that I had time my life to amend. Time I have, I must needs confess. But yet in misery that time must be spent, seeing that my life I would not redress, but wholly in riot I have it all spent. Wherefore am I now brought to this exigent? But the time past cannot be called, this is no nay. Wherefore all here take example by me. Time tarrieth no man, but passeth still away. Take time while time is, for time doth flee. Use well your youthly years, and to virtuous law agree. For if I to virtue had any respect, this misfortune to me could not have chanced. But because unto vice I was a subject, to no good flame may I be now advanced. My credit also is now quite stanched. Wherefore I would all my men my woeful case might see, than I to them a mirror might be.
Oh, all ye parents, to you I do say, have respect to your children and for their education, lest you answer therefore at the latter day, and your meed shall be eternal damnation. If my parents had brought me up in virtue and learning, I should not have had this shameful end, but all licentiously was my upbringing. Wherefore learn by me your faults to amend, but neither in virtue, learning, or yet honest trade was I bred up my living for to get. Therefore in misery my time away must fade, for vicious persons behold now the net. I am in the snare, I am caught with the gin, and now it is too late, I cannot again begin.
This gear would have been seen to before. But now, my masters, you are on the score. Be packing, I say. Get you hence. Learn to say, I pray, good master, give me 9 pence.
Thou villain art only the causer of this woe. Therefore thou shalt have somewhat of me, or ere I go.
Thou hast given me a bottle here, but thou shalt drink first of it, be it ale or beer.
And Rafe Royster beateth him with the staff, and Tom Tosspot with the bottle.
Take this of me before I go hence.
Take that of me in part of recompense.
Now am I driven to pray the master offence. Come no near me, you knaves, for your life. Lest I stick you both with this wood knife. Back, back, I say, back, thou sturdy beggar. Oh, body of me, they've taken away my dagger.
And they have him down, and they beat him, and he crieth for help.
Now in faith, you whoreson, take heed, I you advise, how you do any more young men entice.
Now farewell, thou hast thy just meed.
Now we go a-begging, God send us good speed.
And Rafe Royster and Tom Tosspot goeth out, and there we're just going to pause while poor Newfangle's lying groaning on the ground.
Oh, Newfangle.
Fascinating bit of dramaturgy when the Royster and Cutpurse just turn to the audience and just talk about, you don't do what we did. Is it too late for us? Just reading it, I was just suddenly going, what's going? Oh, this is really interesting. I find that fascinating.
It's that nurture versus nature bit comes up there from Tom Tosspot, isn't it?
Yeah,
If I'd have been brought up proper, I wouldn't have done this.
yeah.
Hmm.
And it's the way it seems to be a reaction from the audience participation bit when Newfangle does the bit, all together now, like will to like, and they're going, "Oh, we're so screwed." If we're actually like each other, it's like you beware the company you keep. I think we're getting to the moral of the story is being demonstrated as much as being thrown at us, which is quite nice.
And I think we were talking yesterday about how was this performed in a boys' school and that kind of thing, and we had the reference to a character previously keeping on their nightcap so that the strings of the beard wouldn't be seen. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking all Tom Tosspot's lines about take heed for your education and the way you bring people up. It would be very fitting if this was being done by boys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean that description, it really is the dodgy hook on beard, isn't it? Tie on beard. I just love that. I think it's so sweet. I mean, going all the way back to Newfangle's speech, when they're talking about the way they've wasted their money. I just love increased a noble just into 9pence. So and a noble. The footnote says it's 6 shillings and 8pence. So they've got it down to 9pence. Well done, guys. Great work.
Take some skill.
Yeah.
Strikes.
Yeah, it's a really interesting thing. They really do turn on him. What's he trying to? Because he's saying they're not going to get. Why do they turn precisely? What's this thing about the land and the going on? What's the precise order of business here? Because I got a little lost.
I'm just reading it through again, and I can't see why they start. I can't see a specific reason why they start beating him.
Because they realize he's cheated them.
He's cheated them. Yeah, it's stated
Whereabouts
right at the beginning. It's right at the beginning when Rafe comes in.
Yeah.
He's cursing and everything else, and he does say, "Hang on, where is it? Let me get that back." So yeah, he does actually say, "The land to the which we did wholly trust shall be gone from us, and we cast in the dust." So immediately it's been set up. They've realised what the hell's happened. So so immediately just that beginning bit, going down to after that speech, I think that the reason they beat him is because they've just realised what's happened through their little aside speeches to the audience. And then when they realise there's nothing else that they can do, they resort to base tactics, beat the hell out of the person who's put them in this position, because it's the only way they know. Again, as Rafe says, if I'd have been brought up differently, I'd have done things differently. But
the land that there's a punishment fitting the previous life here. These two are rioters who start with money and then lose all their money at gambling and drinking, and presumably they spend some of it on sex workers as well. So the land that Newfangle promises them is called the Beggars Manor, and the Beggars Manor is the street. The Beggars Manor is the outdoors, and that's why he gives them the staff and the bottle and the bag to take on their travels. A bunch of things strike me about the speeches once they. It's interesting. I wonder why they don't beat him up and then make the. Well, I don't know. A bunch of things strike me about those speeches, but we have more speeches like that, so I'm going to save it for after that.
I mean, I was thinking about that as well. It seems really strange. I mean, there's a form. Those speeches are like a formal mode of repentance, and that's very important in this Christian story. And also, Newfangle has kind of really gotten off reasonably lightly up until now, and I just wonder whether it's just punishment for the way that Newfangle has helped them in their own demise, if you like. So
I wanted to flag up one more thing, which is usually the vice the vice's traditional prop is a wooden dagger. And it's significant that the two other characters actually managed to get the dagger away from the vice and beat him with it.
Yeah, they disarm him first. They're not fools. And there's a lot of suggestiveness to that stage direction. Though I think it's fair to say that these various louts and wastrels haven't been going to any kind of sex worker in this, because there are no lascivious toys, and they don't seem to mention women at all. Which is something we've had in a lot of other. They almost always go to the stews in other plays, but this one seems to be deliberately not going there, unless anyone's picked up anything in the text. But the prologue did say nothing lascivious. We'll have some violence. Violence is fine. Boys get that at home. Any additional thoughts before we finish? Because I think we'll rattle through to the end. We may pause briefly, but
about the proverbs, because I was very struck by where Newfangle comes in with his like will to like, quoth the devil. And if you think about that as kind of presiding over the whole play, it kind of implies that people can't change, that you're always going to be the same. And yet for a morality to work, you've actually got to have people shifting and changing their minds. And I think it's interesting that Ralph Royster's speech is full of proverbs, now the horse is stolen, I shut the stable door, time tarrieth no man, and so on. And yet those have some kind of moral force now. They're not just kind of, this is, what people say about things. They start to get some kind of moral force to them, which is more moving towards the virtues thing. I think it's playing around with proverbs very interestingly.
Yeah, it's the fact that it's the vice who's constantly saying, like will to like, you have no free will, you are doomed. I don't think any of the virtues have actually stated this. So I think is it a bit of a light? The moral of the story is beware the company you are with will draw you in that direction. Whereas the proverb itself is actually almost deliberately misleading in that sense. Is that too clever? I don't know.
Not really. I mean, it makes sense what you're saying there, Robert, because we did say yesterday that we were wondering if all this that was happening was part of the devil's plan. And it seems very much that the chaos that's ensued, in a weird sort of way, it's got a double-edged standard here, because although the devil's creating this whole chaotic world, there is something about it which is actually a little bit more sardonic, and I think this is the turning point for that to take place. Like for like. In many ways, I think it's the devil steering myself, but that could be something to come later.
Well, let's see. We had Lucifer earlier. It would be very unlikely to see him again. We have the entrance of Severity, the judge. Newfangle is lying on the ground, groaning.
That upright judgment without partiality be ministered duly to ill-doers and offenders. I am one whose name is Severity, appointed a judge to suppress evil-doers, not for hatred nor yet for malice, but to advance virtue and suppress vice. Wherefore Isidorus these words doth say, non est judex, si in eo non est judicia. He is not a judge that justice doth want, but he that truth and equity doth plant. Fully also these words doth express, which words are very true doubtless. Semper inequus est judex, qui aut invidet aut favet. They are uprightful judges all, that are either envious or else partial.
Help me up, good sir, for I have had a fall.
What cause have you, my friend, thus heavily to groan?
Oh, sir, I have good cause to make great moan. Here were two fellows, but right now that I think have killed me. I make God avow. I pray you tell me, am I alive or am I dead?
Fellow, it is more meet for thee to be in thy bed than to lie here in such sort as thou dost.
Be faith, I should have laid some of the knaves in the dust if I had your sword right now in presence. I would have had a leg or an arm ere they'd gone hence.
Who is it that hath done thee this injury?
A couple of beggars have done me this villainy.
I see. If severity should not be executed, one man should not live by another. If such injuries should not be confuted, the child would regard neither father nor mother. Give me thy hand, and I shall help thee.
Well, hold fast your sword then, I pray you heartily.
And he riseth.
Now, friend, it appeareth unto me that you have been a traveller of the country, and such as travel do hear of things done as well in the country as the city of London. How say you, my friend? Can you tell any news?
That can I, for I came lately from the stews. There are knaves abroad, you may believe me, as in this place shortly you shall see. No words, but mum, and stand while aside. Yonder cometh two knaves, therefore abide.
Indeed, re-enter Cuthbert, Cutpurse, and Pierce Pickpurse.
By Gog's wounds, if he help not now, we are undone. By the mass, for my part, I wot not whither to run.
We be so pursued on every side that by God's heart I wot not where to abide.
Every constable is charged to make privy search, so that if we may be got, we shall be thrown over the perch.
If Nicol Newfangle help us not now in our need, we are like in our business full evil to speed. Therefore let us make no delay, but seek him out of hand and be gone away.
Soft, my masters, a while I you pray, for I am here, for whom you do seek. For you know that like will never from like. I promised you of late a piece of land, which by and by shall fall into your hand.
What, Master Nicol? How do you today?
For the passion of God, Master Nicol, help to rid us away, and help us to the land whereof you did say, that we might make money of it by and by, for out of this realm we purpose to fly.
Marry, I will help you, I swear by all hallows, and will not part from you till you come to the gallows. Lo, noble Severity, these be they, without doubt, on whom this rumour of thievery is gone about. Therefore, my masters, here is the snare that shall lead you to the land called the Two-Legged Mare.
He putteth about each of their necks an halter.
My friend, hold them fast even in that plate.
Then come and help me with your sword. I fear they will fight.
Strive not, my masters, for it shall not avail, but a while give ear unto my counsel. Your own words have condemned you for to die. Therefore to God make yourselves ready, and by I will send one which for your abusion shall lead you to the place of execution.
Help to tie their hands before ye be gone.
And he helpeth to tie them.
Now they are bound, I will send one to you anon.
And he exits.
Ah, my masters, how like you this play? You shall take possession of your land today. I will help to bridle the two-legged mare. Both of you to ride, need not to spare. Now, so God help me, I swear by this bread, I marvel who shall play the knave when you twain be dead.
Oh, cursed caitiff, born in an evil hour, woe unto me that ever I did thee know. For of all iniquity thou art the bower, the seed of Satan thou dost always sow. Thou only hast given me the overthrow. Woe worth the hour wherein I was born, woe worth the time that ever I knew thee, for now in misery I am forlorn. Oh, all youth, take example by me. Flee from evil company as from a serpent you would flee, for I to you all a mirror may be. I have been daintily and delicately bred, but nothing at all in virtuous lore, and now I am but a man dead. Hanged must I be, which grieveth me full sore. Note well the end of me, therefore, and you that fathers and mothers be, bring not up your children in too much liberty.
Sith that by the law we are now condemned, let us call to God for his mercy and his grace, and exhort that all vice may be amended, while we in this world have time and space. And though our lives have licentiously been spent, yet at the last to God let us call. For he heareth such as are ready to repent, and desireth not that sinners should fall. Now we are ready to suffer, come when it shall.
Here entereth Hankin Hangman.
Come, Hankin Hangman, let us two cast lots, and between us divide a couple of coats. Take thou the one, the other shall be mine. Come, Hankin Hangman, thou camest in good time.
And they take off their coats and divide them.
Thou shouldst have 1 nickel, I swear by the mass, for thou bringest work to me daily to pass. And through thy means I get more coats in 1 year than all my living is worth beside, I swear. Therefore, nickel Newfangle, we will depart never, for like will to like, quoth the devil to the collier.
Now farewell, Hankin Hangman, farewell to thee.
Farewell, nickel Newfangle. Come you two with me.
Hankin goeth out and leadeth the one in his right hand and the other in his left, having halters about their necks.
There is a brace of hounds well worth 12 crowns. Behold, the huntsman leadeth away. I think in 20 towns on hills and eke on downs they've taken their prey. So well liked was their hunting on hill and eke on mountain, and now they be up in the lease to keep within a string. Is it not a gay thing? Do all of you hold your peace? Why then, good gentle boy, how likest thou this play? No more, but say thy mind. I swear by this day, if thou wilt this assay, I will to thee be kind. This is well brought to pass of me. I swear by the mass, some to hang, some to beg. I would I had the lamb's ass to carry me where I was. How say you, little Meg? Rafe Royster, Tom Tosspot, now not worth a groat, so well with them it is. I would I had a pot, but now I am so hot. By the mass, I must go piss. Philip Fleming and Haunts have danced a pretty dance, that all is now spent out. And now a great mischance came on while they did prance, they lie sick of the gout. And in a spittle house with little Lawrence Louse, they be fain for to dwell. They eat a morsel of souse, or else a roasted mouse, they think they do fare well. And as for Peter Pickpurse, and also Cuthbert Cutpurse, you saw them both right now. With them it is much worse, for they do ban and curse, for the halter shall them bow. Now, if I had my nag to see the world wag, I would straight ride about. Ginks, to fill the bag, I would not pass a rag to hit you on the snout.
And here entereth the devil.
Ho, 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 mine own boy, make no more delay, but leap on my back straight away.
Then who shall hold my stirrup while I go to horse?
Tush, for that thou not force. Leap up, I say, leap up quickly.
Whoa, bull, whoa! I will come by and by. Oh, now for a pair of spurs I would give a good groat, to try whether this jade do amble or trot. Farewell, my masters, till I come again, for now I must take a journey unto Spain.
And he rideth away on the devil's back. And I'm just going to pause there before we come to the close. You know, that could be the close of the evening, couldn't it? In fact, we've almost got several endings here. I really want to talk about Newfangle's speech that he just did to the audience. That was amazing. I loved that. It was, you know, what did you think? Did you think this is where we were going? You know, you can say what you like. It's fine. You know, what did you think? Yeah, they're dying. They're going off and dying now. That's fab. I mean, it's evil, but it's fab. Thoughts?
Yeah. This kind of still makes me think that the two of them at the beginning, the Lucifer and him, had some kind of plan going on. And if I was to put this on myself, I mean, obviously it's up into interpretation. If I was to put this on myself, I'd actually have it so that that Lucifer at times, at really significant moments, just appears and does the whole kind of puppet master thing going on there with Newfangle, just to keep the connection going. But yeah, this does not surprise me. Newfangle does that speech at all, really. It's all a game.
The Vice wins. He rides off with Lucifer. There's not even the suggestion that he does, you know, that this is a punishment and it's going to go horribly wrong and he's being dragged to hell. No, he's you know, we've got that image which is used before and will be used again of riding away on the devil's back. Oh, fascinating. Wave at me. Who wants to speak next? Stephen.
They have set it up, haven't they, by promising them the land way back at the beginning. And I thought when we were reading it yesterday that they understood that it was some kind of weird, dodgy deal, and I didn't quite get that. But all the way through, you know, that they've been sort of wasting all their money because they think they're going to come into this inheritance. So there is, you know, he's not sort of like a tempter, but sort of 10 steps ahead all the time.
It's a long con, isn't it? It's a long con, and you know, it's a question of which of these reprobates are going to get the land, you know, get the prize at the end, because two of them get away with beating the crap out of him, two of them don't, and end up dying. Alexandra, I saw your hand waving.
Yes, so, you know, still in the mind of theatre and education, or that sort of, you know, fairy tales and, you know, children's stories, even biblical stories, you know, they don't go well. This idea of, you know, like will to like, in the sense of if you do ill, you're going to get your just punishment as well. You know, if you hang out with if you hang out with the wrong people, but also, you know, the kind of brackets. That's what I read when they beat Newfangle up, is that he's getting his, look who you're hanging out with, and, you know, you're getting what you deserve. Everybody else has got punished, you're getting punished too. But having him as the vice figure now, kind of going, oh, look, audience, you see what happened there? Did you all notice that? Again, makes sense to me in the educational content side of things, of sort of going, and by the way, for anybody who was asleep for the last half hour, let me hammer the point home. Be a good boy.
And it is interesting with some of the plays that we've done, which are in the very similar vein to this. You know, it's not like some of those earlier moralities where there is that sense of redemption and fine. If you do wrong in these plays, there are consequences. There are real world consequences. I still, you know, we've had in these sessions recently the disobedient child. He disobeys his father. What happens? Well, the father vaguely digs him out of trouble, but he says, "No, you're screwed, son. Bye," and the play ends. And it's actually really depressing. And we've also looked at Nice Wanton, where, you know, the ending is you've played cards and dice and done a little kissing, so you will get syphilis and die, and your family will despair, and you know, if you don't beat your children, that's what happens. So there is this harsher edge to these seem to be deliberately youth theatre kind of things. I find that really interesting. I mean, it's not over yet. We should point out for the listener at home, there is still a very short bit to go of text.
There is a kind of cosmic order to it, I think, in that, like Will to Like, Nicol is friends with the Hangman as well. So, there is that kind of sort of mysterious workings. Justice is working through the scourge, and Severity is the other character that he's kind of like, that they work together as well. And so I think there's a strange, this sort of alliance that emerges between the forces of retribution and the vice, I think is really interesting.
This is the thing, because in so many plays of this kind, we see the vice character come across a person with good intentions, corrupt them, lead them astray, get them into trouble. Whereas in this play, people already had terrible intentions. And so the vice's role was to entrap them and to deliver them ultimately to retribution. So, does he work for the devil entirely? Is he on the side of the angels? Severity hangs the two Cutpurses and doesn't say a word about Newfangle.
It's going back almost to that trickster devil idea of, is Satan actually on the side of God, and that it is his job to tempt? Is he actually evil, or is he actually just doing what God wants? Sascha, I see you waving.
Yeah, actually, that brings up a good point, because look at the name, Lucifer, bringer of light. So we know from the Bible that Lucifer was cast out of heaven by God and basically left to rule, hell, or however you care to cast it. But it's like in this version, if we take it from the perspective, if he's working on God's side, what if actually he's playing both sides at once? Again, it's that whole puppet master thing, to bring, in a way, the most twisted moral that you could possibly bring to it, in the sense that what you put out, you get tenfold in return, maybe. But the whole thing with Lucifer, bringer of light, but yet bringer of destruction, it's in there.
Various people have proposed various solutions at various times to the problem of evil, as in, if God is omnipotent, why does God allow evil to occur? And this play is Protestant as hell.
Oh, yeah.
In all of the speeches, we get 4 speeches of, oh no, I screwed up, take example by me. Only one of them mentions repentance, and it's someone who's about to die. There was a tradition of such speeches for people when people were about to be executed. They were supposed to admit their crime, exhort their audience to live a virtuous life, bless the monarch, and then get killed. But Tosspot and Royster, those are not Catholic speeches. They don't exhort repentance. They are Calvinist speeches. They say, we have screwed up irrevocably. We can't begin again. Our lives are going to be misery from now to the grave, and that's what we've done. It can't be undone. So, is the vice, overall, is the devil part of God's plan? Is the vice part of God's plan? Many theologians would have different answers, but something to think about.
Well, it's the fact that Lucifer, Satan, etc., are largely extra biblical as well. I mean, there's very little actually explicitly of that character that's coming from other sources. Stephen, I saw you waving.
Well, it was just to say that this gives us a context for the sort of bit that we were trying to puzzle about with all the virtuous characters. Because in itself, we've got nothing to connect it to, and it seems to be kind of a sort of strange and rather kind of Victorian interlude. And then immediately after that, if the nastier the vices, the more sense that preceding scene makes, I think. And it sandwiches it, because we've got this I think it's coming up at the end as well, isn't it?
Yes, I was going to say your interjection there was perfect because it cues us in. We should really finish the play before we, so some of us may need to nip off, and we are into extra time, so I don't want to be hanging on too long. So let's close this off. If anyone wants to volunteer to read the song at the end as well, that would be lovely. Someone who's not doing some dialogue coming up, just wave. No, nobody's keen. I'll do the song at the end. Okay, here entereth Virtuous
Alexandra
Life.
waved.
I'll do it.
Oh, so waves suddenly.
2 people waving.
I didn't see any waves. I looked down.
Alexandra waved first.
Liza, who waved first?
Alexandra did.
Alexandra. Okay, someone who's not talking next does the song, and Alexandra has waved. Okay, Virtuous Living, Virtuous Life, and Honour enter.
O worthy diadem, O jewel most precious, O virtue which does all worldly things excel, how worthy a treasure thou art to the virtuous. Thy praise no pen may write, nor no tongue tell. For I, who am called Virtuous Life, have in this world both honour and dignity. Immortal fame of man, child, and wife daily waiteth and attendeth on me. The commodity of virtue in me you may behold. The enormity of vice you have also seen. Therefore now to make an end we may be bold, and pray for our noble and gracious queen.
To do so, Virtuous Life, it is our bounden duty, and because we must do so, therefore we do end. To aid us therein, good fame cometh verily, which daily and hourly on you doth attend.
And here entereth good fame.
Virtuous Life, do what you list. To pray or to sing, I will you assist.
O Lord of hosts, O King almighty, pour down thy grace upon our noble queen. Vanquish her foes, Lord, that daily and nightly through her thy laws may be sincerely seen.
The honourable council also, O Lord, preserve, the lords of both of the clergy and of the temporality. Grant that with meekness they may thee serve, submitting to thee with all humility.
O Lord, preserve the commons of this realm also. Pour upon them thy heavenly grace, to advance virtue and vice to overthrow, that at the last in heaven with thee they may have place.
Amen. And a song.
Spoken.
Yes.
Where like to like is a matched so, that virtue must of force decay, there God with vengeance, plagues, and woe, by judgment just must needs repay. For like to like, the worldlings cry, although both likes do grace defy, and whereas Satan planted hath in vicious minds a sinful trade, there like to like do walk his path, by which to him like they are made. So like with like reward obtain, to have their meed in endless pain. Likewise in faith, where matches be, and whereas God hath planted grace, there do his children still agree, and like to like do run their race. Like Christ, like hearts of Christian men, as like to like well coupled then. Therefore, like grace, like faith and love, like virtue, springs in each degree, where, like assistance from above, doth make them like so right to be. A holy God, a Christ most just, and so like souls in him to trust, then like as Christ above doth reign, in heaven high our Saviour best, so like with him shall be our gain in peace and joy and endless rest. If we ourselves like him do frame, in fear of his most holy name, to him be praise that grace doth give, whereby he fashioneth us anew, and makes us holily to live, like to himself in faith most true, which our redemption sure hath wrought, like him to be most dearly bought.
And everyone applauds, and important notices are given, and everyone's sent back to their rooms. Yeah, I mean it's a close of the play with the Queen being terribly virtuous and wonderful, and just laying in the point, but also with the use of the song at the end there does seem to round it all off quite well. And I think you do need that sort of in-breath after you have this riding away on the devil's back. I think you need to pull it back a bit with this. It's not overly long, but it does, just reiterate the point quite well, I think. Thoughts? As we've now reached the end. That is officially the end of the play, ladies and gentlemen.
I quite enjoyed that. If you'd like to pray or sing, we'll support you. And then we pray, and then we sing.
Yes.
I think it's interesting to me how I hadn't read the play before, and I hadn't read it before this, but how it does, I'm seeing now how the virtuous aspects of it are really being hammered in at the end. And I've now really changed my mind about whether I think, virtuous living and God's promise are parodic. I don't think they are meant to be parodic now. I think this is really hammering home the message that you've got to be virtuous. I hoped it wasn't going to be like that, but it is like that.
Oh, such is religion.
Yes. Yeah, I think in terms of tone, it is important to give the audience a bit of an in-breath. I think there is that sense that there is a palate cleansing quality to that scene in the middle of the play of we've had all the vice stuff, and you get a chance to just take stock before you move into the final acts.
But that
Other
doesn't
thoughts?
mean to say that people haven't really enjoyed the vices and can see that it always turns on the vices or being attractive too. And although they're not particularly attractive, but they're fun.
Other thoughts from the room? Because as I say, we're into extra time and I'm sort of moving towards wrapping up. Overall thoughts? Sascha, do you have any closing thoughts?
Right. Well, all I can say is it's definitely one of the most well-constructed of the plays that I've read in a while. I mean, we've read a lot on this particular podcast, but this one, as well as one other, I think, are really well-constructed. The characters are very well-rounded, and there's a lot of scope which you can go with this stage-wise. Like I say, I'd make Lucifer a bit more part of the action to just sort of tie up the fact that there's a bigger thing going on as well with his apprentice, just to show that there's more to this whole thing that meets the eye. But actually playing these roles, great fun to do.
Stephen, any final thoughts?
Not really. No.
Alexandra, anything?
It was surprisingly a lot less confusing than I thought it would be, based on sort of presages at the beginning of the session. So yeah, I find it really interesting, because what must have happened is that there would have been quite an uncertain, we wouldn't be certain where to pitch it. First half, and then a second half that kind of tells you what goes on. Maybe not just for the us as the readers, but possibly for the participants as well. A sort of I'm not sure I know where this is going. Am I being encouraged? I'm having fun with the vices. Those guys are a bit silly, and then you get to the end and you go, oh, hang on a second, no, these people are being punished, and these people are actually good, and I should aspire to be like them. I mean, I'm thinking as a 6-year-old.
Yeah, it helps that it is demonstrating what the play is about, rather than just telling you what the play is about. And sometimes that's the trap some of these plays have fallen into. Ruth, any final thoughts?
No, I think I've...
Lynsey, anything?
I just wanted to connect back with something we were talking a little bit earlier about, which was this idea that we were talking about how should the good characters be portrayed, and we were talking about the, I think it was you and Liza who were talking about the urgency with which they need to get their message across. And it sort of struck me again with Alexandra's comments about theatre and education and the idea of this being in a school, that, we can't assume that the audience would have been as polite as audiences are now, where they sit and politely listen and keep quiet while everyone's talking. And of course, with everything else that's been going on before, with all the sort of, fun and comedic action and props and songs and instruments and what have you, they're going to really be, and a lot of audience participation. So the virtuous characters, the good characters, really have to intervene into this in order to get their point across. And I hadn't really appreciated that until we were having that discussion.
There's an interesting quality to the virtues at the very end, where they sort of come across a bit like Blue Peter presenters at the very end. It's like, and now we're going to sing a song. It's just that little quality to that closing bit, which isn't, again, comedic. I don't mean that in a comedic way, but just the earnestness of those closing addresses, and very serious. You don't muck around with praising the Queen. That's not something that's going to get you a long life. Mr. McCabe, do you have any thoughts?
None from me, thank you, darling.
Excellent. Liza, do you have any closing remarks? You are muted.
Just one short one, which I will keep brief, that it strikes me that the vices in this play there's a lot of doubling in this play. But broadly, the vices are where you put the ones that are good at clowning. And broadly, the virtues are where you put the actors. Like, if you had a divide between being played by boys and being played by adults, that might be where I'd put it. Partly because for the virtues, the stakes are much higher if you screw up. If Tom Tosspot's trousers fall down, great, pull him back up and make a joke. If God's Promise's trousers fall down, it's much,
Yeah.
So that's my thought. That the stakes are implicitly higher when the virtues are on stage, because the virtues have to be done well.
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting. I think the doubling scheme actually makes sense. I'm not 100%. I haven't done a structural analysis to make sure that the doubling suggested at the top of the play works. I think it does. I didn't notice there weren't any massive red flags. I was vaguely checking who's exited for the reason of costume change, and actually, it's quite well structured that way. There aren't that many ridiculous turnarounds, but I'm not 100% certain. But almost everyone does get to play a good person and a bad person, and some people get to play more bad people than others, and some play slightly more virtuous people than others. But that's one for deeper examination if we come to do something more with this further down the line. But yeah. So I'd just like to take this moment to thank everyone for reading this over the last 2 days. Those who've come in and discovered the close of a play. We're getting this phenomenon of people coming in and finding out, how does the play end? Well, I had no idea how it started, so it's a fascinating journey for some. But I'd like to thank all the readers for their performances, and for you for watching this video to the end, which is always an exciting proposition when you put something on YouTube. I've been your host, Robert Crighton, and goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.